So good morning, everybody. Reopening committee. Today is the 23rd of September. And I want to take a moment just to thank you all for jumping in this morning and for being part of this continued process. We will continue to meet as we move forward to provide updates and also to hammer out additional items that come up as the school year moves forward. So I'll give you a quick update on where we are today, what we've been working through, and then we'll go ahead and have short updates really from our groups. We've been focusing mostly on, of course, reopening the facilities, first in the 7-day remote, and then most recently on Monday in the hybrid. So we'll give you an update on where we are with that. But first, because he's taken the time to jump in with us, and we really appreciate it. Thank you very much, John. I wonder if you have anything, John LaPlaca, from what you're seeing around the region or what you're hearing that you'd like to share.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you, Dr. Rick, and good morning, everyone. Hope everybody's doing well. Everybody's dealing with different struggles, as every district is. Some districts have unfortunately had to close with some infections. Most are non-symptomatic, which is a good thing. Big thing that's coming out now is a lot of questions on drills, as far as how to handle the drills. So we've been doing a lot of discussions about modifications of the drills going forward, and also SED came out with a memorandum or last week that basically said that it was 12 drills for the year, not 12 drills per cohort. So that was good news, especially for the high school, which would be doing about 50 drills if they had to. So all good news on that front. And again, some schools aren't even back in live in person yet. So it's a day by day. I will tell you that a lot of the planning that you guys did in advance, taking all the guidance that was out there, you really took the ball and ran with it. That's now having the benefit going forward. Things like planning for arrival and dismissal and things like that has been really, really a huge benefit, because some school districts are really struggling with that and some really chaotic logistics that are going on. So kudos to the whole team for doing a lot of the pre-planning and getting things to where we need to be. So otherwise, not much new going on right now. It's mostly people just trying to dip their toes in the water and get back to school.
Thanks so much, John. Anybody have any questions for John at all from? Great. Well, John, I hope this is the easiest meeting you have all day today. I agree. I think, thanks to the real hard work that everybody put in all these many months before we started back, a lot of the issues that we're facing, a lot of the challenges that we're facing are anticipated challenges, which make them, there's still challenges, but at least we're seeing what we predicted or what we thought we would likely see. So I'll give you an example. Remote learning, when we got back into remote learning, we heard a great deal from parents and guardians that it was very different, a very different experience from the spring. Sure, there were still, items that were brought up that we're working toward, but by and large, I would say, 180-degree difference from how it was remote learning was received in the spring compared to how it was received when we reopened, and right down even to the children in what they were telling us and what they were experiencing. So that was great. And that of course is due to the hard work of faculty and staff members and administrators and Deb Hand and all of our folks who did so many trainings, Ron and the tech group for making sure that everybody was up to where they needed to be. So good news there. On Monday, we opened up with our hybrid and welcomed our Tigers back, which, by the way, and I know those of you who are in the district, just awesome. Awesome to see the children. Really great to have them back. And most of them, I think, were really happy to be back, different as it is. And it is different. There's no doubt about it. The facilities are necessarily different. The way that we move through the facilities are very different. The pacing of the day is different. All of these things that we're still getting acclimated to, recess, lunch, socialization, all of those things are a bit different, but they're still there. And, the children and the faculty, staff, and administrators are all doing a great job at trying to make sure that there is joy in coming to school. And it's not an easy task sometimes, right? When you think about all of the safety precautions that need to be in place. One of the most important things is that our children feel good about being at school. They're happy to be at school. And I think that our teachers and our support staff and our administrators are really doing a heck of a job of trying to make sure that we're moving in that direction. That said, still challenges that we predicted. I will tell you, as many of the folks on here will tell you, that since we opened and welcomed our Tigers back, I have been chasing fevers all day long, every day. And that, unfortunately, is something we knew was going to happen. It's something that we know is going to continue to happen. We've been doing our best to address, and Maggie is just I can't even say enough, but really just doing a tremendous job. And we're following up, and we're following up with folks, and we're doing everything we can to try and isolate situations of illness. But it is important for the reopening committee to know that all day long, we are literally chasing fevers. So, you know, whether or not we're needing to close a classroom because we have an extremely sick child, or whether or not we have a member of the school community who tests positive for COVID-19 with 5 other individuals who are still out awaiting results for tests. I mean, this is going to be an ongoing issue that we're facing, and it's really important, you know, for me at least, to give you this update as we move forward. A lot of the safety precautions are in place. We're working, coordinating with the Department of Health, doing everything we're supposed to be doing, but nevertheless, right, you know, nature is nature, and we know that we're going to see fevers, we're going to see, you know, illness, not always COVID-19, but unfortunately we have to rule that out, which requires, you know, us to really move quickly to make sure that we can stay open. And that's the biggest piece here. I also wanted to just share, I know you're all very well aware, on Monday, we had to make a decision to go full remote in Eastview for a day. At the beginning, I'll tell you, we made this decision because we received the information very, very late in the day that we had a positive case. And we knew that it would be important to make sure that the medical professionals and Maggie and her team had the time necessary to be able to contact trace and make sure that we were isolating and identifying any particular individuals who may have been exposed to the individual who was identified as being sick with COVID-19. Rather than push through and, you know, hope that health would be able to contact trace overnight or that, we decided to employ our remote learning platform. I mean, that's why it's there. We need to be able to take advantage of that and still have learning continue, even though we're dealing with a health issue in the facility. So I was happy that we were able to move into that. We're all good now. We're back out. Health has identified who they needed to with Maggie and her team. Those folks are all under care, and we'll be able to welcome our students back into Eastview tomorrow. But just so everyone's aware, this is kind of the nature of what we're dealing with here. And what we don't want to do is we don't want to, I don't want to use the word because it's not professional, but it's my vocabulary is failing me, like kind of poo-poo or just you know, look away from a potential issue, because we know that if we have to be right 100% of the time, and if we miss one, we could end up having to close our doors, and that's exactly what we don't want to do. So we're being really cautious. We're being really conservative. We're trying to communicate very, you know, early and often with our community, so everyone's on the same page and knows what's happening within the district. And we'll keep doing that as we move forward too. Today, we have a conversation, or the Section 1 Executive Committee is having a conversation about athletics and how the athletic seasons will look as we move forward. As soon as we have information on that, Coach Cameron will be sharing that. And of course, you know, I'll be happy to give you an update at next week's reopening committee meeting as well. I do want to say, Rosemary Eller, President of our Board of Education, thanks you and sends her best. Unfortunately, she's at the dentist right now. I know she would much rather be here with us, but she did want just for me to share with you her thanks and appreciation along with the rest of the board. So, okay, that's my update right now. Does anybody have any questions for me? Oh, you're wonderful people. I'll start off with Ann. Ann, good morning.
Good morning, everyone. A couple of things. You know, transportation. You know, we're working through. You know, every time there's a new schedule, you know, we have some hiccups there. So, you know, yesterday was good. This morning is the first time for Wednesday. So there's some hiccups there. The Z-Pass is out and distributed by next week. We are hoping that we'll get good ridership data, and that will certainly help all of us in knowing where our kids are. The other thing that has come up, and I think Mr. Spatafor wants to have a discussion just about our facility use during the school day. And, Ernie, if you want to just share some of your thinking there.
Sure. Um, so this is an ongoing issue, and maybe we can address it, as a result of the COVID situation. But access to our campus is permitted for other than staff and students. So we have people walking the track and getting to the track during the school day. Even when there are gym classes who might be, or certainly using the field, but they also might be using the track. And it presents a problem. Obviously, it's a security problem, but it also is a health problem, because now we've got people not related to this school that are, in contact basically with our kids. So I know that, or I don't know for a fact, but I've always heard that when the bond issue was passed to provide the monies for the field and the track, that the community was told they would always have access to that. It's a safety and a health concern that we have students, in a learning space that's not restricted to people outside of our staff and students. So, we want to be as sensitive as possible to whatever, the community needs are, and we always want to have their support. But, we do have to support the safety and health of our students and our staff. So I just, Dr. Ricca and Dr. Teish, we've all discussed this, but I think we need to, as a committee, we could look at specifically, during the pandemic, what are we going to do about that? And then, we can deal with the results after this is over and to make it more widespread. But I know this issue also occurs at Eastview to a large extent. And then Sean has been saying that the tennis courts at the high school have been an issue during the school day. So it's not just related to Highlands, although I think that bond issue point, if that's in fact a true scenario, is related to Highlands only.
Joe? So I thought that the public was not allowed on school grounds during the instructional day. I don't remember that somehow we were allowing universal, access to the facilities to the public when our kids are, in school.
Yeah, thank you, Cheryl. You are absolutely right. We discussed this last year, actually, I believe right before the pandemic hit. And we were kind of talking it through. Security had made that recommendation, of which we knew was a concern, and brought that forward to our district security safety committee as well. We talked that through. So I agree with you, Cheryl. And I think, what we wanted to do today was to find out from our reopening committee if there was any concern related to posting that signage and doing what we can to reduce the number, or actually just, to stop the intermingling of folks who are not part of the school community with our children and our staff during the school day.
I was going to suggest that we put up very clear signage, so yes.
Okay, thank you, Cheryl. And I think, we wanted the committee's blessing to go ahead and move forward with this, because we do know and we respect that there are members of our community who do, particularly on a beautiful day like today, enjoy getting out and walking the track during the morning. And we want our community members to be able to use our facilities. The only thing that we want to do a little different is reduce the potential risk of any type of a safety breach or a scenario where we're going to be having contact with children or staff and community members who we don't, unfortunately, we don't know. And, that's putting everybody at risk. And again, risk is relative, right? But you just want to try and reduce as much as possible, particularly now, cross contact with folks. So I can imagine, individuals, let's in a hypothetical scenario, somebody with a compromised immune system is coming out to do a little daily rehab on the track. And, I don't know and could never say that they're not going to come across somebody who could potentially put them at risk from a health safety standpoint. And these are the kinds of things that we just want to be able to avoid. So after school hours, absolutely, we want to welcome the community, but we definitely wanted to get the committee's take and thoughts on this before we move forward with putting the signage up. We know that enforcement is always, a challenge, and we'll do our best to be able to enforce those policies in a very compassionate and kind way. But with the committees, again, the support, we'll also be able to alert, our SROs and other security personnel to help folks realize, not during school hours.
So, this was, as Dr. Ricca said, this was a clear, focus as far as the district-wide committee last year, and we brought it forward as part of long-range plan and as well as the budget. And we were intending to hire additional security for outside. We held on that. We did. Frank and Sean, were involved with making sure that we were purchasing also as part of the budget a small vehicle to really try to help with, making sure folks, especially at the high school, that we can manage, the number of people who are out in our fields. There is a lot of congregating. There's damage being done. So we're gonna, they are getting the vehicle. We're gonna move forward with not so much hiring, but being able to use our current staff and maybe some substitutes to certainly try to help enforce this. It's been a concern, the use of our facilities during the day. And then the other topic that the district-wide safety team will go back to revisit this year is certainly, how do we control the after-hour use? Right now, it's not as much of a concern because we're not using the buildings, but our fields and how they're cared for after hours, that we still have to come up with some solutions where that's related. Frank, Sean, anything you want to add that maybe we didn't mention, Joe and I?
So I think this year has been more challenging because we find more people on our sites now than ever before. So it is more challenging. I really believe that we're going to need somebody to go to the fields during the day, because I don't see the PE teacher or somebody else, but somebody's got to go around and move. If you see Eastview now, Eastview looks like a park. There's people there walking around there. I mean, there's at least a dozen or more people there, I think, every day, so those are the concerns I have, is trying to get that. We may have to lock the gates during the day, during that school hour, and then open them up at 2:30 when the kids are out. So, but I think it's going to be challenging to the public to re-educate them.
Yeah, thank you, Frank. And I see, Mrs. Vitale, I see that your hand's up. I just also want to add there, I think it is important that, and Sean, you too, I'm sorry. I think it is important that to have, not to rely on a faculty member to engage with community members. We have folks who would be able to do that, and we can use folks who would be able to do that. And again, in a very kind and respectful way, of course. And I think, Frank's 100% right. Just kind of changing that culture is of course going to be new, and it's going to be different. But we also have to remember we're utilizing these spaces to the extent that we're able to as well because of the pandemic. So on a beautiful day, if we can get the children out of Eastview and get them onto the field or get them walking around, we're looking to be able to really utilize our outdoor spaces as much as we can. And so making sure that the perimeter, making sure that there's situational safety and security in those areas is really going to be important. Go ahead, Sean, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to add that, we need to back up our police, our security. We need to have good policy in place, legal backing, because if we're going to enforce this, we need to make sure that behind the scenes, that things are in place so that we're not leaving anybody, hanging out there. We can't expect somebody to go enforce something, but if there's not a clear policy in place and backed by the board and backed by the city, we just all need to be on the same place. I think it's common sense. Like, everybody's feeling, for the most part, we don't use the school during the school day, but you still see those occasional people that they're just going to come because they can.
Yeah,
I think if we work together, we can make a change.
I agree. And I think Cheryl, I'm going to rely on Cheryl when we go back to have this conversation with the board. Of course, Cheryl is our policy guru, and we'll be able to. I don't know that we even need to necessarily amend a policy in as much as just make sure that we have our signage posted and we have very clear expectations, and everybody's supported moving forward and getting that message out. So communicating that with the city and letting them know and doing all that. And once we go through the board, we'll be happy to do it.
I'm almost surprised by this discussion because I felt like it was always clear cut that the public was not allowed on school grounds during the school day forever. So I'm not sure, what's changed. I know that the signage has not always been clear, or it's been faded, or it's not, posted in enough places. I mean, I just don't know. Is it possible that some of the public doesn't realize our kids are in school now? If they're not parents, I don't know. Can we take out an ad, advertise in the White Plains Patch? I mean, certainly on our website to put up very clearly that the public is not allowed on school grounds during the school day.
This was also a big discussion as part of the master planning committees, all those subcommittees. This has been ongoing. Debate about, the pros and cons of all of this. So, it just seems to be that this was the history here. And also it would be good if Detective Brown, if we needed to call the police, I just wanted to add this, do we need a policy that clearly, says there's no trespassing? Is that, some, I know jurisdictions, look for that, or is signage, going to be sufficient? And if we need support, that when we call, we have that support.
Well, we'll circle back with legal and get language from legal that the board can then consider.
Yeah, we can get, absolutely.
Let me just, I just want to clarify. So for the elementary schools, it's clear that there's no trespassing during school because of the kids. But when you talk about the secondary schools, Eastview, Highlands, and high school, that was never made clear. And I think that's where, because of the size of the locations and that and the number of fields, so.
Go ahead, Mrs. Vitale, thank you so much. You've been so patient.
Well, I live very close to Eastview and Highlands. I'm sorry. I live very close to Highlands, and it seems that it's always been an issue. A lot of people do use the track, but during quarantine, they did lock all the gates. And, I don't know. I know for gym classes that want to go out, but perhaps you lock all the gates and just leave that one kind of that precedes a staircase through the woods to the end of the track open for the students to enter onto the track. I also know that it really wasn't enforced on the upper fields at the Highlands, and people often use that little extra fields as like a dog park. And,
And dogs are forbidden also on school grounds, by the way. So.
I'm aware, but I used to coach for the White Plains Soccer League, and we always had problems with people bringing, because we had the rights to practice there, and people were always bringing their dogs there, taking them off the leash and let them run around like a dog park. So it really, unfortunately, I think part of the problem was that it hadn't been enforced in the past, and now we need to enforce it. And with the size of the Highlands and the size of the high school, I mean, the high school is definitely used by the public down by the track. There's no doubt about it. I mean, I drove by last night and there were people out there, practicing or kicking in the goal, not a team, but so I think, we could put it in our PTA newsletter for you as well. But I definitely think that, it's partly the enforcement, that it's something new that we're stringently going to be enforcing it. But I think with the athletics starting too, it's even going to be a problem after school because you don't want to cross-contaminate when kids are practicing.
Yep. Thank you very much, Ms. Vitale. And I agree. Does anybody disagree? And it's okay to disagree. Does anybody disagree or have a different thought on the use of the facilities during the school day by the public? Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. We'll get working on the logistics of that, and I know Frank has already been putting together the language for signs, and we'll get legal wording, and we'll share that with the Board of Education for their review, and then get back to everybody. But I think it's good common sense, and I think it's good for the entire community, not just the children in the educational community, but to make that demarcation, to have that separation during the time in which children are present. It just makes good sense. Gina wrote that, the playgrounds are off limits during the school day at the elementary schools. And that's absolutely true. It makes total reasonable sense, right? Yet, sometimes I will tell you, we have actually had to chase, ask folks kindly to leave, chase them off, because we have little children who are looking to play in the play structures, and it would be inappropriate, right, to have adults sort of hanging out there at the same time too. So it's one of those challenges, but I think now that we have everybody on the same page, we can move forward with a good plan.
Joe, just one other thing. When teachers, so let's say a PE teacher is taking a PE class out to the track, do they normally have walkie-talkies on them? So there is somebody, if they saw people on the track that should not be there, they could contact somebody in the building who would be equipped to handle.
Yep, they do, and they'll be able to communicate right with building security. And again, this is a credit. I have to give credit where credit is due. 5 years ago, we weren't in this position where we do have a very strong security team. And again, it's not security like I'm going to rush and tackle someone to the ground. It's a group of professionals who can do the work of making sure that the other professionals in the school community can focus on teaching. And that's been really helpful. And thanks to Cheryl and you and the board for doing that, of course. So yeah, we'll have that. We'll move forward. We have radios. In fact, even I have one now, thanks to Sean Lewis, and I can hear everything that's happening in the district all the time on the radios, which is great. Okay. Ann, was there anything else from your department?
Just, touch base with, food service, Ed, do you want to just make, a couple of comments about how that's been going and the participation?
All right, I'll give my usual half-hour speech. Again, yesterday I told you guys everything has been going good with the planned food service procedures that we've been doing. Breakfast has been really low. The lunch looks like they're about 50% of the population is taking lunch, which we kind of figured on. Today, Wednesday, we're getting numbers that we didn't think we would have. So we're gonna straighten out a Wednesday, and it's gonna look a lot better next week. We're gonna be more prepared. We just weren't. I don't think we were prepared for the amount of. It wasn't communicated the numbers on the special ed kids. So we're going to be, they're going to do it, but we'll be more prepared next Wednesday. Grab and go, those, we're not doing too many of those.
So do you find that that children are bringing their food?
I'm not sure the answer to that. Not participating might mean that, I guess. I don't know.
All right. I know, Sean, you wanted to just add a couple of points about arrival and dismissal and drills and so forth. Go ahead, Sean.
Just a quick update. Things are going pretty well with arrival and dismissal. Obviously, arrival is going much better than dismissal, but we're making adjustments as we go as things come up. So I think that's pretty good news. Visitor management. It's nice that people are following the rules and doing what they need to do. We still get visitors come to the buildings, but people seem to be doing what is necessary. Social distancing, the signs are all out. We're starting to realize we need a little bit more on where we can put them so we can do a better job of social distancing. So we're getting all this together, and we're gonna do more about that. But I did want to mention drills. We started actually doing our fire drills, and it wasn't as bad as we thought. They did one yesterday at Church Street. They made the PA announcement ahead of time, pulled the alarm, people social distance on the way out. And because there was half the amount of kids in the school, the drill didn't take much longer than a normal drill would take. It only took them 2 minutes to get out of the building and a normal time getting out of the building is probably like maybe a minute 30 or minute 35. So overall, that wasn't a big deal, and you would think it would be. It took them a little longer to get back in than has been in the past. But even that was only 15 minutes to get the whole building back in. It wasn't a major disruption to the day. So I thought I would share that information.
That's good news. Thank you, Sean. It goes back to what John LaPlaca was saying about just the planning piece. So even though we're thinking, it's going to be sort of the worst, we're finding in many ways that there's tons of advantages to planning. Go ahead, Cheryl.
So Sean, and probably this is a not necessary question, but I'm assuming now that we know from the state that we do not have to provide the large number of drills for each cohort. Is the idea that we spread out the drills that we are required to have to cover the different cohorts so everyone has at least 1 or 2 drills?
Oh yeah, that's been communicated to the principals, and they're absolutely following that mindset. But certainly it's up to them at each building. Some are starting to feel let's do a little bit more. So you may see a little bit more in the beginning, just to make sure everybody's on the right page, and then we'll see how it goes from there.
Sean, if I could just add something too, is that in a situation where, let's say the district goes to a fully remote, but the teachers might be in the buildings, they're required to do a drill at least once a month, even if students are not there. So that's another piece of the puzzle that everybody, and people need to leave. The other piece too is about what if you're on a Zoom and how do you deal with those types of things, whether it's a lockdown drill or a fire drill. The piece there is to really be strategic in your scheduling, either to do it at the beginning of the period or the end, so that people are aware. Maybe not communicate out that we're going to be doing a drill during this time, but just say the class is going to start a little later and a little earlier. This way there's not disruption, and teachers should be logging off of their workstations when they actually implement the drill. We don't want a live feed from a classroom during let's say a lockdown or God forbid a real drill or a real emergency.
That's
All good
point.
stuff.
I'm sorry to interrupt on that one. In theory, that sounds very practical, but in practice, it may not be as easy if it's a real drill and it's an emergency, to say to the students, I have to log off now and go. So we need to really think about how to put staff at ease at that moment on how to do that.
Well, certainly in a real emergency, the priority is not to communicate to the students at home why you're disconnecting. So if there was, let's say, a lockdown situation, obviously, if you could hit the end button, you hit the end button. We'll worry about that piece later. If it's a type of emergency where you can say, everybody, the fire alarm's going off, I'm going to have to log off, we're going to be exiting the building right now, that's fine. But the priority obviously is life safety over the other piece. This is more about when you're doing the drills, you don't want them to be in the middle of, let's say, a class with their students, and then a surprise drill pops up. At this point, the surprise nature of drills is really out the window. We still want to develop muscle memory, but we want to do so in such a nature that we're being respectful of the safety actions related to COVID. But at the same point, we recognize this is very disruptive in this environment, whether it's, the remote instruction or the fact that we have to social distance and modify the drills. We just want to be very sensitive to that.
Okay. And we did talk about the daily health screenings and that is, being improved upon. I know that Ron, and you can jump in, is working to get the attendance groups on the reports that are generated each day. So to help facilitate making sure we're getting to those non-responders, and Dr. Ricka's office, communicated, trying to, make it clear to everyone as far as, how to fill out the report and everything else. And Maggie, last but not least, do you have anything that you want to comment on?
I've just been working on making sure that I track everyone that's sick. And basically, I've been just supporting everybody that's sick. I've been also on the phone with the nurses to make sure that they're all on the same page, because every school has a little bit of different needs. So I want to make sure that we're trying to make it uniform and that everybody has the same information when we're sending people home. And that's pretty much it. So I've gone from giving out PPE to tracking illness, basically.
Can I jump in for a second? I just wanted to say thank you to Maggie. Yesterday, very late in the day, I called her with some questions and concerns by a teacher, and she took her time to explain the process to me, offered to speak to the teacher directly, and it was late in the day, and she, was still going strong. So thank you, Maggie. Everybody really, really appreciates it.
I'd just like to join Guy. I was on the phone with Maggie throughout the day yesterday, and I think we got off the phone last night at about 9. And Maggie still had other calls to make to teachers to reassure and inform them of our process. So it's a really difficult situation, and I can't thank you enough for being there. So thanks.
We're all good, Dr. Rick, I think.
Thanks, Dr. Couch. There's a couple of questions in there. Ms. Vitale talked about an emergency alert coming across computer screens when a security situation is triggered in the facilities. That does actually happen, depending upon the situation. There's also indicator lights that flash in all the classrooms, as well as audible messaging, if you will, indicating what's transpiring in the building. Great point. And Ms. Mungen was asking additional questions about the survey. I'm not sure, Laura, if you saw the clarification that went out last evening.
I did see it. I'm getting some feedback still that parents who have indicated they're remote only are feeling like, my kid's not coming. Why am I having to fill this out?
Well,
so that's just something that's still not clear.
Yeah, at the moment, we've not changed that at the moment. We still need to track sickness and to an extent, and I'm not sure, we're still working that through. Again, the day 3 of this, right? We're still working that through, the best way to approach the daily screener. It's a pretty cumbersome, we came a long way, but it's still pretty cumbersome. And it's definitely a reasonable question for parents and guardians whose children are remaining home all the time. Why do I have to complete this? We're asking for the moment that folks take the 15 seconds, right? I have 4 kids. Okay, a minute. For the moment, if we're able to change that, we'll adjust it. But again, just kind of from a perspective standpoint, I do it every day too, right? We all do it every single day, and that's going to be an important part of us being able to track folks who are not feeling well. If we can make adjustments to streamline it and make it a little bit more efficient, we absolutely will. If we need to come back out with additional clarification, we can talk that through too, and try and assist.
Joe, it was very clear though, because I had been on Moms of White Plains and saw that there was a lot of confusion and contradictory advice. And so what you sent out was, I thought, crystal clear about what the requirements are. People may not agree with them, but it was clear.
Thank you. Yeah, and I know, and again, I know we're asking, look, I get it. I might be changing a diaper and trying to pour a bowl of Cocoa Krispies and at the same time let the dog out. And now I have this thing I have to do. And I know that's just like another thing in people's plates. And I apologize for that, but it will get easier, and we will get we'll get a streamlined process in there as we move forward. I'm confident of that. I don't want to put, I know we've gone through and Dr. Hand and Mr. Pepper and Ms. Algarton have gone through and given updates, and I don't want to belabor anything else, but I definitely want to give them the opportunity to share any new information if they have any.
I can provide you with a very brief HR update. Obviously, our primary focus right now is monitoring employee absences and, managing that to the best of our ability. I can tell you that Monday and Tuesday this week, we saw pretty typical numbers. We had 56 employees out, and that goes across all departments. On Monday, Tuesday, we had 60. Today, we saw a little bit of a spike. We're up to 86 individuals out. And again, that's across all departments. But that's somewhat typical. Most of those days, the vast majority of them are people taking personal days or personal sick days, or for our 12-month employees, some of them exercising the right to take maybe a vacation day. I dug a little deeper today, just trying to get a sense of it. Out of the 86 people that are out today, 18 of them are out on COVID-related reasons. So most of them, again, obviously for precautionary reasons, as Dr. Rick had indicated a little earlier, as we take this, cautionary approach to dealing with, with COVID. So I think overall we're in pretty good shape, but we'll keep monitoring. And if we see any significant increases, we'll certainly report that out.
Thanks a lot, Scott. Any other updates?
So I do just want to give a brief update, Dr. Ricca, please. I just want to remind parents, whoever might be listening to the recording, that our special education students do come in, some of them for additional supports on Wednesday. However, if a building is closed, it's closed for all students. So even if your special education student was supposed to be in, if it's a building closure, that means that they're not coming in. There'll be a special education coffee talk the evening of October 8th to get feedback from parents as to how Wednesdays are going for children and how services in general are going for children. With regard to the social and emotional learning, I did get some questions from committee members, so I want to address them publicly. We had about 1,000 parents respond to the survey, or students. The buildings will then really start to use the screener as they see fit to screen additional students and to identify students who might require some additional supports and services. The district level SEL committee also gave to the buildings guidance by which to run their building level SEL committees. And then we did provide guidance through the College of St. Elizabeth School Climate and Culture Organization if buildings require additional supports on how to get the SEL work up and off the ground. So that's all happening now. In addition, we did just add 30 groups partnering with Andrus, who have been tremendous partners in this process. For any White Plains staff member, administrator, clerical, teachers, cafeteria workers, whoever might require it, they can sign up on my learning plan. Those classes will go through the end of November, with the emphasis being on that emotionally well adults, right, transfer to emotionally well students. So as we support our adults, we want to make sure that they're getting skills also to support our students. And so that's the brief update. Does anybody have any questions? Thank you.
Thanks, Deb.
Hi, good morning, everybody. So Dr. Ricca had mentioned the importance of the joy of coming to school, and I think that that's what we've been focusing on. We were worried last week. We were talking about the transition from remote learning to hybrid learning, and that happened this Monday for the first time. And I think to our surprise and to, to our teachers' hard work and collaboration and creativity, it went much better than anybody ever expected. However, that doesn't mean that it still doesn't have its challenges. We're working hard on making sure that our parents, family members know the expectations for Zoom, as well as our teachers are equipped with all of the safety features and know how to use the safety features in Zoom. So I know the technology department has been working on that. We actually have a concise list of protocols that are going to go out to our teachers of, all the different, bells and whistles that are on the system, that you can make sure that you start your meetings where students can't, enter without the host being there, that you mute everybody so that you have to unmute them and be able to talk. So we'll have, we have all those things in place, but to get it written down on paper so that people can use it as a handy reference, that's what everybody's been working on right now. I just want to mention that for the teachers, that when they're in a hybrid learning environment, they have children in front of them all the time, and they have children at home, and they have children in their classroom. So we're just asking that the parents realize that their accessibility during work hours is limited because they're teaching. So it was a little bit different when we were in remote learning only, or in the springtime, because there was more time to be able to answer things right away or on the fly. But just keep in mind that teachers are really balancing their students now, and just the excitement of everybody coming back. I know that Sarah Hall couldn't join this meeting today, but I had a subcommittee yesterday, and I asked how the first day went. And her response in an email when I was setting up the meeting had so many exclamation points in it of how wonderful it was to see children back in the school. It just made all the work that we've been doing this summer so worthwhile. So I just want to thank all the administrators, the principals, the assistant principals, the house administrators, the curriculum coordinators who have worked with their unique departments to meet every single unique need of each of the classes, and of course all of our teachers. So when you see children back in the building, and even with masks on and social distancing, just to see how important teachers and schools are to our children, it was just so special to hear the feedback. So I just wanted to share that. And then just, other things like in terms of us using Seesaw and Schoology as learning management platforms, that seems very positive for everybody. Making sure that we're following a regular school day. And some parents are having difficulty with that. Some children are having difficulty with that. But overall, it's been very well accepted. And the same thing with the balance of asynchronous and synchronous. In the springtime, everybody was saying we need more synchronous teaching, we need more time, and now we're getting a little bit of feedback that it needs to have a little bit of a better balance, but we're getting a lot of positive feedback of how much connections our teachers are making with our students. So I'm excited to hear that feedback as well. And just the attendance piece of it, we're working on. Attendance, obviously, when children are in school, children are in school. When children are home, as long as they're present for their classes, they are in attendance. But also there will be times where children can't, sign on maybe at a specific time, but they're still getting their work done. So we want to work out a little bit of that. And also we want to make sure, and I was thinking about what John was saying, just about drills and things like that. We actually need to know who is in school too. So if we're taking attendance on Infinite Campus and we're marking everybody present, we still need to know who's physically in school and who's physically home. So I know that Ron is going to be working with Infinite Campus to see how we can make that delineation, because that's important. If anything happens, we need to know who is in school at any time. If they're, I don't even want to say, but if anything could possibly happen, we have to have a record of that. And I think that that's it. I want to know if anybody wants to, shout out from our team now of our subcommittee, if any of the principals or if Jennifer would like to share, or Gina or James.
So, okay. Oh, Gina, go ahead.
Go ahead, Jennifer. Go ahead.
Oh, well, I was just going to say that, I think, again, speaking specifically to the elementary level, that teachers are working very hard to figure out balancing all of the competing interests of their time and attention. And I'm really pleased with how much growth has already been made in terms of trying to figure out how we will, balance the learners at home and the learners at school. And for me, I am trying to take an early childhood developmental lens, particularly with what we're doing with our primary grades, and really making sure that children, both at home and at school, are not having too much screen time, right? So it's very important for us to balance the synchronous with the asynchronous, and also build in opportunities for choice and breathing, because during a school day, children are not actively engaged in an academic task every single minute of the school day. It's very important to understand how a primary classroom works. You have some focused activity, you take a little break, you have a movement break, you sing a song, you go get a drink of water, you do. So we need to sort of build that into the lives of our learners at home as best we can, because we're already doing that at school. But so we're trying to set expectations for what is an appropriate amount of, interaction with the teacher live through the iPad or the computer versus when am I working on things on my own, and also when am I taking a break? When am I going outside and playing? When am I eating my lunch? When am I just having a little bit of downtime? So I think we're going to get to that place. We're just trying to figure it out right now.
And then this is Gina. I just wanted to share, things are going very well in my home. My 6th grader, I had to say overall the staff and the teachers and the support staff have been great. I know I put it in the chat, but I'd like to compliment the Eastview building on the transition from they went from remote to hybrid to then working totally remote from their homes. They did a great job there. The teachers are very positive, and my student is doing wonderful. My high schoolers, one of my daughter has a flipped classroom in pre-calculus, and that's very successful model, I think, for that. And overall, I'm very happy. What an improvement from the spring. So thank you overall to everyone.
If I can just add, and this can't be said enough, the amount of work and time and effort that's been put in by the faculty and staff. I ran into a high school teacher on my walk yesterday, and we were talking about how, class had gone for, Monday and Tuesday. And again, navigating, one thing to first navigate sort of remote teaching, right? And now having to navigate the hybrid model and trying to engage both the kids who are in your classroom and at home. This is not what they signed on for when when they were trained, when they became teachers. And so again, I just want to, express my admiration and appreciation for all the tremendous work that's being done. And, everyone needs to be flexible. And, thank you.
I just want to add that I agree as well. The synchronous learning has been fabulous, and the kids are getting out of bed, they're engaging. I mean, the teachers are engaging them at home. And my daughter also was so happy to be back in school yesterday as well. So I think, it's well.
I think we may have had a little bit of interference there with Mrs. Vitale, maybe the car.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I also wanted to mention our Wednesday afternoons. I know that I mentioned them last week, but it's come up again with the teachers. So I just want to get that out there, and for everybody that's listening to this or watching this right now, how important Wednesday afternoons are. When you think of all the work that's going into this and how different this is, it does provide the common planning time and the common collaborative time for teachers to work together, and also for professional development when needed, or that they can teach each other how they're using the different technology tools. But to build their toolkit, they need that common time together. And in a teacher's schedule, yes, they have a prep period where they have to prepare for the classes that they're teaching, but they don't have common time across a department or across a grade level on every single day that they can get together and they can do this high level of planning and preparation that's needed for this hybrid teaching environment. So I just want to thank everybody for recognizing the importance of those Wednesday afternoons. And the children do have a full day of school because we are providing synchronous and asynchronous opportunities in the morning, and then asynchronous opportunities in the afternoon. So, it's a full day of school for children, but to give us that time to really let our teachers work together and plan together is extremely important.
Thank you, Ms. Vitale, no problem, and thanks, Ms. Vanelli as well for all the positivity and support in the chat. Does anybody have any, we're right at our time, we're at 10:26. Does anybody have any additional items for the committee for this week? Okay, I also want to echo, I really want to echo Cheryl Brady and Debbie Hand and Suzette Vitale and Lisa Spinelli and Gina Norfleet. I can't say enough, and for our community members watching at home today, I just can't say enough about how in awe I am from being part of this team and the work that we've completed since really April of last spring in truly building a new approach to education during a pandemic. And, you know, thinking through all of these different scenarios and looking at ways in which we could overcome challenges. And that's not to say that there still aren't challenges, not to say that there still aren't areas that we're refining. Normal everyday school stuff that still happens, by the way, you know, that's not COVID related. All of these things still exist, but I really can't just can't say enough about all of our students and our parents and guardians and PTA members and our teachers and our support staff members and our administrators, our SROs, our community partners. It has really just been a Herculean effort to get us to where we are right now. And so despite all of the areas that we're still refining and still improving upon, I really think that this committee in particular should take a bow and really know that the work that you put in, all these many hours and many meetings and you know, back and forth and just reconfiguring and reflecting has really made all the difference in the world. You know, so even though Maggie and Deb Algart and I and other members of our team might be running around chasing fevers, we're able to do that because of all of the other steps that are already in place and moving, and team members who know their responsibilities and are able to keep doing those things to allow for everyone else to be able to troubleshoot and deal with whatever's coming up on a regular basis. You know, anyone who works in schools, anybody who works with children, particularly in a larger educational organization, knows that a lot happens during the day. And when I say during the day, I mean a 24-hour period. Because when the school bell rings at the end of the day, that does not stop. It doesn't stop the things that you know, we're working on and working with. So just thank you to this committee, and you know, keep up the great work, and thanks for sticking with us. And we've benefited from all of your time and talent for sure. So we'll reconnect next week, and we'll have an update for you on where we are. We have two more solid days of hybrid instruction this week. We also have a holiday that's coming up, and for those who are celebrating, of course, on behalf of everybody in the school district, we wish you an easy and meaningful fast. So enjoy, and to everyone else, enjoy the beautiful weather. Before you know it, we'll be talking about snow days. Frank. Talk to you soon. Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks, Dr. Ricca.
Thanks, James. See you later.